And we are live. Hi, Alex.
Hi.
So, everyone, I have Alexandria Beauregard with me from Las Vegas this afternoon. Afternoon, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I know. And so I wanted to introduce you because this series I started doing during the pandemic, obviously, because I wanted to bring some positivity and also shine some light on the people that are behind the scenes. You're in front of the scenes as well, but that are in the entertainment industry. So you came to mind one day. Alex and I met through Circus Couture, which is the charity that I head up with Kelsey, the hair and makeup department, and we raise money for children and families with cancer that can't afford treatment. And she is a fabulous model every year.
Yeah.
When did you first do it? 2014? 13?
Yeah, actually, I look back at like the first year I did it and I was like, oh my God, like I've been doing this I think like 8 years, or well, maybe like 6 or 7. I don't know. At this,
Yeah.
I lost count. At one point I was like, I got that look, I've done that look, I've done
Yeah.
that look, I've done that look. Maybe like 5 years. But yeah,
At least.
it's been a long time. I mean, it's one of my favorite events that happens in Vegas. Just not only the cause, obviously, but just the people a part of it, like, meeting yourself. So you're so talented. And, Georgia and Jeffrey that I've worked with for so many years, like their talent is so great. It's just great to see artistry in Vegas because I think, again, we kind of are in this like corporate little show bubble. It's really weird, even though there's like artistic things and it's a really amazing city. Okay, that was my coffee just went there. Even though like it's a really amazing artistic city in ways, like sometimes a lot of the show bubbles are just like, I don't know how to explain it, but
it's the normal like 40-hour week for a lot of people. It's just on a different,
right.
It's like 4 to midnight instead of 9 to 5, but it's you get up, you go to the grocery store, you go to the gym, you have the kids, you go to work, you get up. And
Yes.
so to have that creative outlet definitely helps.
Yeah. No. And just every year working it was such a blessing because not only was it like in my first couple years, it was kind of like the first fashion show that like I ever actually like really did. I mean, I always wanted to do this. Yeah, like I always wanted to do a fashion show when I was a kid, but I never had like, the stage or I just never did it, So like actually walking for Georgia and Jeffrey that first year, that was like my first time actually doing like a fashion show. Like that was like big like that. And I know that like for some people on the scale of fashion, they're like, oh, whatever. But for me, I was like, this is amazing. Like, and I think because there was a performance value with it. And I think that first outfit that I wore, it was like blossoming out of that like black. Do you remember? It was like a
That
black.
was the one with the epaulets. That was the first year?
Yeah, that was the first year. And then it was like a whole transformation. And it was like, I don't know. That was like the first moment I really just, I don't know. I felt so proud of myself just doing that. I don't know. I was a lot younger too, but it was amazing.
I had no idea that was the first time. Well,
Right.
I mean,
Are
we're
you getting
in it.
feedback? Sorry.
What?
I thought we were getting feedback. Okay. It's okay.
I think there might be a little, let me see if I can hear it. There might be a little tinge, but I think it's okay. Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah, I had no idea because that was our first year meeting you, but that was the first time too that we saw you move, and we were like, "Who is this person?" And then I didn't. You had worked with Shane O'Neill, who is a amazing photographer there in Vegas, whom I love dearly. Him indeed, his wife, and to see those photos come out, that was my first experience of having to go through all of the raw photos and choose like 2 of you.
Oh, yeah.
Which is nearly impossible.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. I remember the night before, girl, I like partied so hard. Like I didn't go to bed till like 5 a.m. and then we had to be there at like 8 a.m. or something. And it was a whole day. But again, I was like, I mean, I didn't tell anyone, but I was a lot younger. If I try to do that shit now, no.
You'd be like, I need help. It's so true. Shane, you've done a lot of stuff with him over the years, and every year you can tell like when photographers work with certain models a lot, and there's a comfort level there, as well as that you have extreme control over your body and understanding how the shapes and silhouettes work and what they're asking for. And some models, so I don't know if you know this, when he does all of the raw photos, he will send them to me to go through and look at so I can see what the other makeup artists need for their portfolio.
Sure.
As well as what I think would work for the dancers and the models and stuff. But so I get something like 8,000 photos to go through. And then there's always the section of here's Alex's. It's like 1,200 photos or something crazy and it's like, you know, you go back and forth because it's like,
oh
this,
my God.
this.
I mean, I am flattered. I do the same when I look at my own photos. I was like, wait, my hand will be like here. And then the only difference will be like right here, you know? And like, I'm like, oh, which one is better? I don't know, you know?
It makes a difference though.
It does.
I want to back up a little bit because I had never heard of Kelowna.
Kelowna, British Columbia. Yes.
So I never heard of this until I met some friends of mine who maybe they'll be watching this. They currently live there, but they are British expats that live there. And all of the photos look fake because it's so gorgeous no matter what season.
Mm-hmm.
And so when a couple years ago, I saw that you were from there and I was like, what? Like, how was that growing up there?
Yeah. Okay. So, well, brief history. So I was born in Kelowna, British Columbia. I definitely, I grew up in that area. I also grew up a little bit in Vancouver as well. So that's like, you know, on the coast, but mainly predominantly in Kelowna. And actually like, so it's on a lake. So it's a big lake, Alpine Lake, and then it's vineyards everywhere. So they call it the wine country, and it's actually a very dry climate considering, you know, versus very wet climate. So it's like they call it like the California of Canada. And so beautiful in the summer, like it can up to like I'm thinking Celsius, but it can get really, really hot there in the summer, which is like considering like Vegas temperatures sometimes too. So, but it's beautiful. Like it's on a lake and everything is clean. And I'm like, as I'm talking about it, I'm like missing it. But yeah, so predominantly I grew up there, and then how I moved down to Vegas is kind of a long story, but I'll kind of like shorten it. My aunt moved to Vegas back in like 1999 or something. And my mother decided that she wanted us to try Vegas. And so we tried Vegas for like a year or two when I was about 10 years old. And then we moved back to Canada, and then we moved back to Vegas. So I've done a lot of back and forth for my teen years. And then I went back to Canada. I finished high school. And then when I was done high school, I came back to the US and I finally got my green card. And then I started working in the entertainment industry. But it was a lot of things happened as a teenager, but I'm really blessed and happy that it all kind of worked out.
Mm-hmm. Did you, what was your training as a dancer growing up?
Well, it's actually funny. So when I was a kid, my mom put me in gymnastics and tap and ballet. And I was actually a figure skater before we moved to, I would have, to be honest, if I would have stuck into figure skating, like when I was the age I was and I took it somewhere, I'd probably be a pro right now because I loved it so much. But I love
this story.
It's crazy. It's so crazy to like think back. But so my mom moved me around a lot. So I had to always adjust to my climates. And then when I was about 10 years old, I was still figure skating in Canada. But when we moved to Vegas and made that transition, I just felt like it didn't feel like a figure skating town. I know that it's here now that I'm older. I'm like, I should have just continued with it. But I got into tennis, and I actually played tennis most of my young, like preteens. And dance, it's so funny because I've always wanted to do dance, like dance and skating and stuff like that, anything that was movement. But my mom was like really set on me being a tennis player. So every time I would ask her, like, I really just want to dance, Mom, she's like, oh, what are you going to do with that career? You know, like, you know, and, and as much as I love tennis, I loved it so much, but one day I came home and I like threw my racket down and I was like, Mom, I don't want to play tennis. Like, I want to dance. And I was already at this point, like probably like 14. And so I kind of started going to classes again, but then I moved, and then it was just like a whole thing. And then long story short, I think my training background has been very scattered. So I've never really like actually like had really proper training to the point where it's like, you know, I was a competition kid, or, you know, I could pick up choreography like that, you know, but it's like a driven passion in me. So I think maybe why my career is what it is because it's just it's like my truth. It's like my passion. It's like who I really am, you know? So,
Yeah.
that's my history with dance. It's kind of been in and out of my life. But it was nothing that I really like intensely trained at. I intensely trained at stuff that, you know, was sports stuff. Yeah.
But it translates, right? Because those gymnastics, especially in tennis as well, there's a certain discipline that has to go into that, just like in dance or in any other thing that we're passionate about, or even not. And so I think that does translate, because watching your career from, the outside, seeing the consistency and the constant working, and all of the photo shoots, and like I said, your control over your body with how you move, it's really amazing. And so that it's surprising that you don't have like this very, very kind of formal training, but at the same time, it's kind of refreshing, because look at what can happen with just some passion and dedication,
I mean, and I'm so for that, because even when I was playing tennis, like I would come home, lock myself in my room, play like Michael Jackson or Prince, and watch myself dance. Like, and even it goes back to even when I was a kid, like, and I was like, you know, I was I was like 3 years old, and I used to watch myself in the oven when my mom was cooking, because I would like tap dance and I'd move. And so, you know, she always told me, she's like, I have a little entertainer as a child, you know, but you know, I think a lot of people make decisions based off of like finances as well. Like, you know, a famous tennis player like that's making loads of money versus like possibly making it in the dance world. It's kind of like I understand where she was at, but you know, going back to what you said, like I'm so happy that I have that training, because it taught me a lot about athletics. It taught me a lot about movement. And again, I've been a chameleon when it comes to like dance and sports, and it's even in my life now, like, you know, really deciding to go into fitness and really like be like, okay, I want to be a competitor. Like I see what you have to do on stage, and I'm like, I can do that, you know, like,
I got that.
You know, like it's like easy for me. Like I'm like, and a lot of girls and a lot of women that get into this field don't know what they're doing, and I feel I'm like, the stage part's a piece of cake, you know, like. So it's interesting how like, yeah, it's really interesting how like the little things in your life really add up, and it's like a part of your journey and a part of your story. And so like I just have a different perspective, I think, now where I'm at. I feel so blessed to be able to have all of the things, and also haven't touched on other things yet, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Absolutely. Speaking of you being a chameleon, I was looking back through your Instagram, and because I remembered about like you hosting and stuff, mainly because of all of the unbelievably crazy outfits that you would wear whenever you were hosting, like at the pools and stuff. And I thought, what a fun gig, right? And this was as Lady Gogo, right? Is the alter ego for the hosting. Because not only do you have to get out there in front of everybody, you know, with these beautiful outfits, some of them are very, very tiny, but then to have to interact and like the social aspect of it, and really drive that excitement and that momentum for the day, so that the guests enjoy themselves and you're making those connections.
Mhm.
What made you come up with Lady Gogo? And let's talk about some of these outfits that you collaborated with people on, because holy moly, they're awesome.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you. So it kind of actually goes back to my first gig that I got when I moved to Vegas, or started kind of transitioning into the entertainment industry. So I actually started as a dancing DJ on Fremont Street. So my whole thing was like I would DJ and I get on the mic, and so I was always like wearing go-go outfits, like the whole fur boot thing. Like I was totally rocking it. It was like EDC like every day. Um, and so I'm getting feedback. Hold on. Did it go away? It went away. Okay. Sorry. I was getting some feedback. And so basically I needed a DJ name. And for some reason I was like, I was really loving Lady Gaga because she first came out. Like that was like 2011 when she started coming out with her thing. So she just like came on the scene. Like that's another artist that I just really look up to, because she really came on the scene and just was like, bam, like it just, I don't know, what she did back then was like, we were all really moved by it, and really like, it was like shocking. It was like pop culture art. We were like, whoa. And so I think a lot of the lady part was like formed from her, but then the go-go part was, I was also a go-go dancer DJing, so I was like DJ Lady Go-Go. And then it became like an alter ego. And at one point I dropped it just because it was the Lady Go-Go, I think, is so similar to Lady Gaga that people were always like, is this a Lady Gaga impersonator? And so I was always confused with that. And then it just seemed a little bit and not amateur, but it was just a vibe for the time. And then I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna put that aside and just use my name, because my name is awesome, right? Like everyone's name is awesome, and maybe something else, I'll form something else soon. But yeah, that's the whole story with Lady Go-Go.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. I think too, so for me as a person that has always been more on the plus size, curvier, uh, side of the spectrum, it's always been really great to watch women, especially that are so confident. And I, my own insecurities and stuff actually don't really stem too much from that, surprisingly, but um, being like, oh my God, like she is amazing. She's a dancer and she's rocking this stuff. And now that's even moved into fitness and bodybuilding, which your mom's a bodybuilder growing up. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about kind of body positivity. And do you find that it's easier for you these days or harder to kind of stay in that stable, confident place?
Oh, well, so I guess I'll just get really honest with my experience with body positivity, because I think I used to have an eating disorder really bad. And I think this stemmed from a lot of stuff that happened in my childhood with abandonment, and just, there's a flip side to the story, right? There's always the good and the bad. And I think, I had an eating disorder for a very long time, and it's something that I really had to start taking control of. And I found that me getting into fitness the last couple years has really helped. Also, like, I enjoy eating food. Like, I love eating food, and not feeling like you can eat food. Sorry, excuse my French, but fucking sucks. Like, it
Yeah.
totally sucks. And
Yeah.
I love that I am in fitness now, and that I understand diet and nutrition, because I know it is the most important thing that we have for our just whole life. And being where I'm at now, it's like I've really been able to combat that. And something that really, I guess, just really like kind of crushed my soul was, everyone was like, oh, your body, your body, your body. But I had like an underlying eating disorder for a very long time, And so a lot of people don't know that. And like, that's something that I'm becoming a lot more comfortable talking about. And I'd also like to help people with that, because it's still something that like stems up, and it's like, oh, it's like I have to like stop that behavior, and
Yeah.
you know, certain things will be triggers, right? I've dealt with a lot of stuff as far as body positivity on the back end that nobody knows about, that I've really had to work through. But now where I'm at too, like I think also like when I moved here and I started working, like, you know, getting breast implants and everything was like, it's still a thing, but like it was like a big thing. And I just, for some reason, I just was like, I just can't, I am like, I went to
Can't
the
do it.
doctor like 4 or 5 times, like I'm telling you, like, because you feel, especially in Vegas, you feel like you kind of need it, like for some reason, you know? And I just have to say, now where I'm at, I'm just so happy that I didn't do that to myself, and to each their own. Like whoever wants to do
Yeah.
whatever, you can totally do that with all due respect. But for me, where I'm at now, I feel so good that I've made decisions to keep my body natural and just keep myself and not go down a path, because I already went down the path with the eating disorder, that I'm like, I don't want to go down other paths where I'm, you know, getting something because I feel like it's going to make my jobs better or I'm going to look better. It's like, I just want to be comfortable in this and like honor this. And when you really start honoring it, it's like it shows, and people see that. Like they
Yes.
really resonate with that. Like when you just honor what you have, you know? So like I'm such an indicator to like just be you, you know, and honor what you have. Like if you love your curves and you talk to your curves every day and you're like, baby, you look good, like these guys, and that's amazing, because what you're doing is you're literally changing your cells. Like your cells are understanding what you're saying, and you're changing basically your water, your chemistry in your body by talking to yourself. So I try to do my best with talking to myself and just being grateful for what I have, because I know that it's a gift.
Well, I think that it's really important that you share that side of your journey, especially in Las Vegas. I feel like even the people that I work with a lot come from competitive backgrounds and things, and so the eating disorders are really prevalent. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there, and
Mm-hmm.
especially in the dancers and that kind of stuff, because they have to maintain certain figures. And so I think it's very brave of you to express that that has happened and that you still deal with it and stuff. I really commend you for that. It's not
Thank
easy,
you.
you know?
I mean, it used to be scary to talk about it, but now I'm like, you know, if I can shed some light
Hmm.
on anything that can inspire, like that's where I'm at in my life. And again, like I said, like it's still a work in progress. Like I still have to just talk myself, like when I go out to dinner with friends, because you know I'm very regimented, so I like my schedule, I meal prep, like, and me doing that, I'm always at my fullest self. I feel like the best. But then when I get off track and I'm doing dinner meetings and I'm drinking a little bit and I'm eating you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It comes back up, and I'm like, oh shit! Like I got shit to do the next day. Like wait, this is taking me away from my goals, and it's this thing, you know? And so I really had to have balance with it, and just also allow myself to not be perfect and allow myself to be in the moment. And I think a lot of us make mistakes because we are always like, I don't know, like we always think of ourselves like doing all these other things, but yet like we've missed the moment that could be so special if we would just chill and allow the calories just to be, you know, like just let them be. Like you made the decision, eat it, let it be. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so like I'm really trying to understand that balance. And I do like, I have cheat days, which are awesome. Like I'll eat like a stack of pancakes and I'm like, oh, like this is the best thing ever. But then if I have too many cheat days, then there's something up. And so it leads me back to a lot of work that I've been doing with myself, where I'm actually in this thing of saying no. Like I say no a lot now, and it feels really good sometimes to say no, because I know certain things are going to take me away from my goals. And you know, I've even had this past weekend, I had like some slip ups, I had too many drinks, left my car, you know, like, you know, stuff that I obviously being responsible, but then I was like the next day it just ruined my whole day, you know? And I'm like, I'd rather have that 24 hours to do something great with it rather than the 8 hours I spent drinking at this thing where I didn't even need to be there, you know, and then making poor food decisions. When you start doing those poor decisions, it's like one thing after another. And I'm really learning that in my life, you know?
Oh, it's so great. It's so hard. I mean, I'm going back on, losing weight after having the baby and stuff. And so really having to like wrap your mind around what the end goal is instead of just like at the moment and things. So I totally understand you. But that's why I find like your Instagram, especially when you're at the gym and stuff, it's very motivating to be like, yes, I can do that squat. I can do that, those types of things, and seeing your progress is super awesome. So, hats off for really putting the time
I
in.
appreciate that. Yeah, no, and that's essentially why I always film myself and always put stuff up, is because like I know that this is part of my story, but like I want to inspire, like I want you to like be like, hey, she's squatting, I'm gonna go squat too, and it also holds me accountable, like, and it's also like teaching me when I film myself, like when I set up my tripod, like I used to get so embarrassed setting up my tripod in the gym. I was like, oh my God, like what are people thinking? Now I don't give a fuck. I'm like, it is 2020, like I'm trying to make money, like you're trying to make money, I'll leave you alone, you leave me alone, like, and I've just like, I have a whole other like respect for just even myself, where I'm like, I enjoy doing this. I go to a gym just that's locally too, that doesn't have people everywhere, which I choose to do when I do film stuff. And I think it's great because it's kind of just, it's quiet. I film myself. I learn every time I film. I'm like, oh, like my face looks really stupid right there. Like maybe you should be like, you know what I mean? Or just, like my stance or something like that. Like there's something about my body position that's not right. So yeah.
I love it. I especially like the ones where you're like, well, I just almost died doing that one. So and you're like, oh my God, that was hard.
No, there's certain, well, I also have a trainer too, so he pushes me, which is another thing that I just want to tell everyone. I always suggest having coaches in your life. That's like one of the things that has changed my life, is having coaches, like fitness coaches. I also have a life coach that I work with. And spending money on coaches is like just so amazing. I don't know how to explain it. Like it's changed my life to actually put money back into the things that I'm trying to learn. Like, so anyone that has more knowledge than you that you can learn from, totally pay for it. Like, I wish I would have spent my money in my younger years on coaches.
Yeah. Well, it's a sense of accountability, right?
Yes.
It helps you focus and have accountability on what you're trying to do. And because, there's so much noise and chaos. There's a little less noise right now with COVID, but at the same time, there's what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? I have to, and so to kind of quiet that down and focus it in, having a coach, I think would be very helpful.
Yes.
Yes. I wanted to chat with you about some fun things.
Okay.
One is, I see that you have a bulldog, American bulldog?
I have a bulldog. Yeah, he's an English bulldog.
English bulldog. And what I have found, my friends that own bulldogs, they are like obsessive about bulldogs.
Yeah.
Like they love them. And
honestly, they're very they have a lot of human characteristics where you're like, you used to be a human or something, because no, like they're moody, they have emotions, like they grunt at you when they're mad at you. Like I love bulldogs. My bulldog is so special. We actually rescued him from a home in Temecula about 3 or 4 years ago. So he is a rescue. So there's some things that we had to adjust with, but as far as just like their love, bulldogs have just the best love. I can't explain it. Yeah. They just
they always get another one. Like,
yep. Yep. Once a bulldog owner, you're always a bulldog owner.
Yeah, it's so funny. I've never had one, but I've had many friends that have them, and the level of love and obsession for this animal is really impressive. It's so cute, and he's
So
just,
cute.
what is his name?
His name is Baxter, but we call him Poopy. So his name is just now Poopy. Or Pooper Snooze, but yeah.
Oh my God, I love it so much. Do you have any other kind of gigs coming up that you're like any kind of shows, or because you were with Sexy, which was the burlesque
Mm-hmm.
review, that closed, yes?
Well,
Or
yeah,
something?
well, because of COVID. But
Yeah.
actually, it's so funny that you talk about Sexy. So I'm actually going to be doing a show again with them. We're doing a dinner show at Hustler nightclub. And so it's going to be the Sexy show, the Sexy cast, but it's going to be a dinner show. So I just sort of, like the opportunity arose, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm ready to do this again. Like, I left in 2018, but I was with them for like 4 years. So like I was there for a long time. So like when I left, I just wanted to try new things, and I did freelance for a while, and then I worked, at nightclubs and I did Mayfair, the 1920s style supper club, which is amazing, by the way. But it was great to kind of do something else. But as far as like right now where I'm at with everything, I think I took enough time away that I'm like, I could jump back in and, go do something for, the dates that we are doing it for. I think that would be really fun. But a commitment to a show right now, like I don't even know like what that would entail as far as like our new climate that we're in, like, is it going to be a 5-day a week thing, or is it just like a couple days? Like, I don't know.
I don't even think they know, as far as Houston is still pretty shut down, New York and everything, as far as like any of the bigger shows, they're having to figure out the backstage and rehearsals. And so I think kind of how you're doing it is what's happening. Is we're just kind of starting small and then testing it and then crossing our fingers and hoping. So I hope that goes really well and that it continues to flourish so we can all kind of get back on track here.
I mean, I agree. I think that this whole, pandemic and what's happening with Vegas and the closures and things not coming back, I think it's going to be, as much as like, I guess I'm trying to be positive, but I think it's going to like make space for a lot of new art stuff to come in. And I really do believe that like the old way of things and the big corporate stuff and like the big show, like maybe it's going to kind of come condense itself a little bit. And I think there might be a little more opportunities for like stuff that's a little smaller, which is more impactful. Maybe. I mean, I don't know, but I do think that these like big mega club things with these DJs that they pay like buku amount of dollars, like I just think that era might be over for a while, and then like real artists are gonna come in and still do amazing things, because the people that are gonna stick with it are like survival of the fittest, like
No, that's a really interesting perspective, because I think that there's no way that those things can happen for at least another year, like the big giant. When did you ever go to a club that you weren't just right like on somebody? And that
it's not.
it can't happen.
Well, and I was a part of Chaos nightclub, which was the big one that they opened at Palms, and they closed even before the pandemic. And I have to say, being a part of that, it was awesome, but I did see the end of an era for these mega club things, just because there was so much money dumped into the whole Palms Resort and the nightclub and everything, and even DJs, and you just saw the whole thing just completely shift in what people were spending money on. And again, like, our newer generation is probably not going to spend $50,000 on a bottle of champagne, like it's changing. Like the whole culture is just really changing, but I think it's so fantastic, because that means there's going to be room for art and things to come back that are going to be genuine and, you know, not so bougie and all about money. It's going to be, I think it's great. I'm actually excited for this wave. I think there's going to be a giant gold rush, and all of us, like, you're going to not be able to stop working. I'm not. Like, there's going to be so much good from this, and there's just going to be so much art and people that come out that are just doing amazing things for the right reasons. I really believe it.
Yeah, I like this. I like this line of thinking. I think that you're on target with it. And I think Vegas is a very interesting kind of microcosm of consolidated art, because it's all kind of like in this tiny area. Because despite what people think, Vegas is actually a small town after living in Los Angeles and Houston, which is coming back and having to drive an hour to go everywhere. I'm like,
oh, it's crazy. I know, like, I get to like around town and like I'll leave like 10 minutes before I have to get somewhere. It's like, what a luxury.
Oh yeah, it takes 10 minutes to get out of my neighborhood. Like,
oh geez, yeah.
So it
And
is
everything in Texas
small
is so
town.
spread out too.
Yeah. So it'll be very cool to see what comes out of, you know, Vegas. And is it Area 15?
Area 15 is a cool thing. I mean, downtown is always like looking to create new stuff. I love, you know, I have to say something, and I always have conversations because a lot of people discredit Vegas as like a city where people come to die, and like it's just about like strippers and this, and then there's nothing wrong with that, which I love strippers, by the way.
It's a piece of it.
Yeah, no, but it's like, I think the stigma against Vegas is like people really just think this town is like, you're not really like, because, you know, we kind of battle with LA and the LA thing and the LA thing, but, or the industry out there versus here and how it's different. But I honestly, I've met some of the greatest people in this town. I've met some of the most amazing artists from all over the world. So when people talk about the culture in Vegas, I'm like, kind of like, I don't believe anything these people say and they just talk about it. I think this is one of the greatest cities in the world. And I'm just so proud and happy that I've been able to be a part of it and see the movement. Like, I moved here. Well, I moved again here, but in 2008 when the crash happened. Yeah. And so like I was a part of that whole thing, how that was a whole thing. And now we're going through this whole thing. And I just feel like the strong will survive. And the people, again, Vegas has been so good to me. And I've seen it be so good to other people. And if you can really keep your head on your shoulders here, you can have a really good life. You know, the living is inexpensive compared to like LA or New York, you know. I guess it always depends on what you want to do too, right? Every city has its different thing. But here with the live entertainment aspect, I love it.
It's so great. I do miss it a lot. It's I'm excited to come back and visit. I was going to be coming back in December. We're going to wait a little bit with the surge in cases, but we'll be back next year for Circus Couture for sure in the fall. Yeah, they were going to do it in April, and I think we're going to maybe move it to the fall just to be safe, and which is great, you know, because then we can really put on an amazing show. But I am so excited to be back and have all the good food and, you know, just zip around and go from place to place. Before we go, I wanted to talk with you about, you're kind of doing a lot of self-healing and self-research and self-love and those types of things. Are there any particular mottos or anything that kind of carry you through on a daily basis that you find yourself saying to yourself over and over again?
Well, I'm getting feedback. So okay, so this one I've been saying a lot. I mean, it's not really like necessarily like quote out and like by someone, but I've been saying this a lot. Like, the one thing that we cannot get back is time. Like, money comes, money goes, love comes, love goes, like relationships, everything. It's like life, that's just gonna happen no matter what. But the one thing that you cannot get back is time. Like, once it passes, it's another day, it's another hour. And I just feel that like I'm so my perspective on time has changed so much. Just what I can fit into a day and how it's so valuable. Like, a lot of us, again, I think when we're not really like goal oriented or focused or writing things down and having our schedule, like sometimes we're doing stuff and we're like, we're not really wanting to even do it. And so we're wasting time, you know? And I just feel like when you start to value time, you start to value yourself and what you can do with that time. And like, I just want to do everything. Like, I'm on DJ, like I'm at IKEA and I'm like making my room and I'm like, okay, what else can I do today? Like, and I get really excited because there's always something to do. There's always a book to read. There's always something to research. There's always someone to talk to. And you can like choose to stay in light and enlighten yourself and educate yourself daily if you want, or you can just scroll through Instagram. And like when I do that and I'm like doing the endless scroll, I'm like, okay, wasting time. That is the biggest waste of time. And you know, I try not to look at people's stories because I love looking at people's stories because I could just be like, woo, and answer everybody. And one time I did that with like all the people I was following, and I spent like an hour and a half on my phone when I could have been doing something so much more productive. And I'm like, Alex, what are you doing? You know? So yeah, that's the only thing I think I have to say that really I'm just so grateful for is time, because I know that's the only thing that we can't waste. If you're wasting time, then I mean you're just holding yourself back from your truth and your greatness, because it's like we all have a truth, you know, and I want to find that. And I know that if I'm wasting that time that I could be finding my truth, it's just like, well, that's not a purpose for my, you know, human self. Like I should be trying to find that truth at every moment of the day, you know?
Yeah. No, that's a really great one. I'll have to put that one in my reminder cap along with so many.
I mean, there's, like there's so many, but
that's a good one though, because it's ever present, you know?
It's amazing how time flies. Like you'll be doing something, you're like, oh my gosh, like I just can't believe that the whole day is gone, you know? But if the whole day is gone with something that like just fulfilled you and fulfilled maybe the people you're with, your family, like that's a good time spent, you know? It's just the stuff that's unvaluable. It's just like start gutting that shit out of your life, you know?
Yeah. I've definitely started trying to put my phone down. Also because I have a little tiny human that is now seeing what we do. And you want to talk about a mirror of, wow, I didn't really realize I was doing that, is he wants it. And I'm like, no, you can't have that. But then I'm like, but I'm on it all the time. So, you know, now I have to lead by example, which is great because I don't need to be on it all the time. But it does help to like set it down when we go outside and play. And then that way I can play with him, you know?
Yeah.
And enjoy the weather.
That moment that you play with him, that's so valuable to him, right? So it's like that time that you're spending is his time is now being spent in such an amazing way that's going to not only make your relationship better, but he's also now growing and his capacity of thinking and stuff is growing. And so it's like when we start putting ourselves in a space of like truth and like real just being genuine with just every situation, like we realize when we spend our time good, everyone reciprocates that energy. And it's like just like an energy field that's just like could you imagine, like with the election, I'm not going to go into politics, but could you imagine if people just only wanted to just lift everything up and lift us out of this instead of like stay in the negativity and battle the both sides? Like, could you imagine like if our elevation of just human society was all thinking on that same wavelength of like, you know, let's be more peaceful. Let's just, you know, let's stop this. Let's like, you know, let's move forward in a way of not arguing and fighting. And I wonder how humanity would be, you know?
Right. Just putting all of that energy, all of the money for those commercials, but let's put all of that towards something positive instead of commercials. Like,
right.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that you're amazing, and
I think you're amazing. I love you, and I totally honor this whole thing is so amazing. I'm really sorry it was 30 minutes. Like, oh my god.
Oh my gosh, you're fine.
Okay, so something that I'm trying to be more mindful of is time. And I had some slip ups and I was like, oh my gosh. So you working with me was just another indicator of how I need to get better with my time management. So you just learn every day. And it's a great process because especially when you have friends. Like I just had a friend recently tell me like, Alex, like you always show up late. And she's like one of my best friends. She's like, I'm really getting tired of your tardiness. And I was like, really? Like, I was like, oh. And it actually like made me feel really bad because like a friend that I love so much was just honest with me. And I was like, maybe that's all we need is for people to just be more honest with others in a loving way,
Yeah. No, I think that a lot of times the shortest way to get what you want is to be diplomatically direct.
Yeah.
Kelsey and I we were together a lot, and I have no compunction about being like, we have to talk, not with her, but like with other people, to be like, we have to talk about A, B, and C. And she's over here like, oh my God, well, what if we like don't? And I'm like, no. Like, we're all going to die one day. Like, let's just get through this. And that way we can live the rest of our life without holding on to this anxiety or,
Yes.
feelings about it. And she's like, oh, okay. And then you do, and it's over.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And having transparency with everyone it just makes you feel better too. Is like when you really mean what you're saying, and then they're like, okay, like even if they don't feel good when you say it, like at least you got it out, and it's not like you kind of beating around the bush to try to make them feel good about something. You're like, no, like this is how I feel. That's it. Like, or something that another thing with gigs, and I know that you know this, like when someone's always trying to negotiate your price, it's like, no, this is my price for this amount of time, and either you pay me or we move on from this. I'm not negotiating my price. And that's something I had to learn because I kept doing that all the time because we're so eager and hungry for money. But essentially, like if you're doing the same thing for a lot less and you're negotiating yourself for a lot less, you're basically being what the industry is known for, is like, these people that come in and do jobs for like, $50 and work all day, then they're making the value of all of our work go down. And so like I started being like, no, you want my presence, it's this amount of dollars. Like just that's it. And if I decide to do free things, it's because I decided, not because I'm negotiating with you because you're gonna put me on a red camera and post it on your Instagram. Like, I don't give a fuck.
I think that that's really important though for people that want to get into this industry in any capacity as a freelancer. I just had this conversation with a wig artisan the other day about pricing, because a lot of us are really great at the creative side of it, but the business side of it, it's very difficult to hold that line and tell people what you're worth, and to look back at how much experience you have and how much training you have, and that goes across the industry that we're in. So it's good to hear that
and
is
going back to your time too, right? Like time. So like that's another thing. Like just because we're creatives and people are like, oh wow, this is fabulous, like we need your presence for this thing and we're gonna you in this, it's like, but what you're doing is you're paying for my time and my expertise, like at one point, because I've been a part of things where, again, someone will try to negotiate, and I've been in spaces where I'm a lot younger and I don't understand, where they negotiate with me, and then in the end I get nothing from it. I didn't get what I wanted, and I just wasted my time, because nothing came for it. That on my end, I feel that my time was spent very wisely with this company or this gig or whatever. But then again, it's like that's when you learn how to negotiate yourself. You're like, how many hours is this? Okay, no. Not for that price, or it's a whole
I
thing.
rent, I have bills to pay, they don't pay for themselves.
Right, exactly. So I think it's good for us maybe to move into this new time we're coming in, to be a lot more as artists, like maybe I'm maybe talking to myself right now, but learning and educating ourselves on how to, talk about money. Like that's a big thing. I'm actually reading Jen Sincero's book, like You're a Badass Making Money, which is a really good book. And I'm just sort of getting through it. And I'm like, wow, like she was a freelance writer until she was 40, like living in like, people's couches and small little studios, and so like, and it wasn't until she like woke up one day, she's like, I need to take the bull by its horns right now. And I think that's a lot of us entertainers and artists and people in this industry, is like, we got to really stand up for ourselves.
Well, and I think you're right, especially coming back into the industry, because the assumption is, oh, you haven't been working for 9 months, you're going to take anything you can get. instead of a lot of my friends that are artists have been putting money out that they're not necessarily getting in by taking more classes, by honing those skills, by upping the skills that they already have. So they're actually going to come out of this pandemic and quarantine actually more skilled than when they went in.
Right.
And so therefore actually worth more. And
Right.
it'll be an interesting struggle to see happen that hopefully the artist will win.
Well, love prevails. And the one thing that a computer can never generate is art, because I feel like it's not at that capacity yet to like create something that's from an imaginary sense. Like, so I really feel like humans, like, even though they're like trying to push like these, technology agendas on us, I still feel that like we are still in power, and like creation is still going to come from here and here, So I think the art community is going to bounce back, and the way that it's going to bounce back is going to be phenomenal. And the people a part of it that are really like real true artists are going to benefit greatly.
Oh, I'm excited to see. And I'm excited to see what you do next. I'll be watching. Watching from Houston. And,
I love it.
And then I'll get to see you and give you a big hug, whenever I come visit. But
I could hold you for like 5 minutes. So I'll do a big hug.
One day I'll bring Aiden back with me when it's a little bit safer, and he's a character, so y'all can meet him now. So crazy. Well, thank you for joining me. He's 2.
Oh wow! My gosh! Whoa.
He'll be 2 this month.
Wow.
2 going on 80.
Wow.
He's my little old man.
I love that. That's so cute.
He is. He's awesome. Adorable. I love him. Oh, did it feedback?
Oh, am I getting? Well, no, actually, I'm feedback clear right now. But I was getting actually a lot while you were talking, so I was like, I'm just queuing it out.
I'm sure it will be fine. You stay safe, stay well, keep posting. And let me put this up here just one more time so people can follow you on Instagram and keep you motivated as well. And
sorry if I'm a little naked all the time, but just I'm comfortable.
You're naked for those of us that aren't naked all the time.
Okay, I'll be naked for all of you.
Yeah, we're just gonna live vicariously through you. It's great. It's fine.
Okay.
It's absolutely fine. I love you, and I'm sending you all of my love and light from here to you, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Yes, I love you, Megan. Thank you for this. So fun.
Bye. So it'll take just a second. It's gonna end.